Okay, well, moving on to superintendent's recommendations and reports. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Martin to cover the items listed under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Birding, and members of the board. I have quite a few items for your consideration this evening under Personnel Professional. Item number 1, resignations, letters A through F. Item number 2, unpaid leaves of absence, letter A. Under employment, letters A through D are employment for brand-new teachers to Fairfield. Letter E, new one-year limited teacher contracts effective for the 1920 school year. Letter F, new two-year limited teacher contracts effective for the 1920 school year, and there are several pages of those. Item G, new continuing teacher contracts for the 1920 school year. Letter H, there are really 3 items here. It's recommending the approval of the supplemental contracts for extended service days for 1920 per the FCTA contract section 6.08. Also recommending approval of the supplemental contracts for co-curricular placements for 1920 per FCTA contract section 6.07. And recommending approval of 10 extended service days for school psychologists for the 1920 school year. Item I, secondary summer school teachers. There are several of those. Letter J, summer school substitute teachers for testing. Letter K, recommend that the following persons be issued administrative contracts effective July 1st, 2019, as defined below, and there are 14 of those. Letter L, extracurriculars for next school year. Letter M, ESL tutor, 1 for the current school year. Letter N, home instructors for the current school year. And then finally, item number 4, letters A and B. These are corrections from the last board agenda. There was an incorrect month for the end of their contracts, and so it was moved from July to June 30th. That concludes the items I have for your consideration this evening under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.
Mr. Birdie and members of the board, I do have several items for your consideration under Personnel Support. Number 1, resignations, letters A through D. Number 2, unpaid leaves of absence, letters A through E. Number 3, employment, letter A. And number 4, promotions, letter A. That concludes the items I have for your consideration this evening under Personnel Support.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes,
Mrs. O'Neill?
Yes.
motion passes.